Well, good afternoon and welcome everyone. Really want to thank you for joining us today to celebrate 2025 International Clinical Trials Day. We're thrilled to have you here to celebrate the people who make clinical trials in BC possible. I'm Alison Orth, the Portfolio Director for Research Programs at Michael Smith Health Research BC. And one of my portfolios is Clinical Trials BC. And we work to strengthen the clinical trials ecosystem by increasing capacity and capabilities to conduct clinical trials across our province. We also lead and partner on various initiatives to maximize the health, educational, and economic benefits of clinical trials. And I would like to pass over to my amazing co-host, Kate Ketch, to help kick things off today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Allison. And hello, everybody. I'm so excited about this session today. It's very near and dear to my heart. And I'm excited to see the numbers rising. And so thank you to everyone for joining today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation and the opportunity to highlight the work of our colleagues in the clinical research fields. In fact, I'd like to call them sort of the unsung heroes of clinical trials. A lot of people think of the physicians or the PIs as when they think of clinical trials. I'm thinking right now of McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy. I don't know why I'm thinking that, but that's what I'm doing. And of course, they're a very important part, but there are so many other important parts and essential roles that are required to make clinical trial magic happen. And so I'm excited to celebrate some of those very people and have a conversation with them here today. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Kate. And I love that the magic, because they truly do make magic happen. But before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that our broadcast does extend across many Indigenous lands and territories throughout British Columbia. Our Health Research BC offices are located on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nation. I'm very grateful to live here on the lands of the Coast Salish people, and specifically the Semiahmoo First Nation, and I am very grateful to be here. I do encourage or welcome any of you to share a land acknowledgement in the chat if you would like to do that today. One quick reminder before we begin. The views and opinions that are expressed today are those of our speakers, may not necessarily reflect those of their affiliated organizations, including Kate and myself. If you're watching as a group, we kindly ask that you do also register individually so that we can make sure that you all get a copy of the recording and post-event survey and any resources that Rishi will share with you. Our webinar is being recorded and may be uploaded to our website and other streaming platforms, and we do reserve the right to edit the final version. And with that, over to Kate.
Awesome. So I realized because I'm so excited to talk to these folks today, I forgot to say who I was. For those who don't know me, I am Kate Ketch. I'm the director of the Department of Evaluation and Research Services at Fraser Health, and I get to work and basically be the cheerleader of an awesome team that works to bring research to life at Fraser Health. And I feel very privileged to, like I say, work with awesome people. I also wanted to just put some context into this, that today's webinar is actually a part of 5 Days in May, which is an annual event that's been going on for about 13 years now. And it's about a celebration of health research across BC. Every year we bring together researchers, students, patients, healthcare providers, decision makers, and members of the public to learn, share ideas, and spark innovation. This year, 5 Days in May is a combination of provincial showcases plus a range of regional events throughout the month, and we're about two-thirds of the way through. But I'm very happy to be doing this event and partnering with Clinical Trials BC for this webinar as part of 5 Days in May.
Well, Kate, thank you so much for your team for inviting us to co-host and put on this session today. I know that Fraser Health had a session earlier showcasing some of the amazing research that's happening in Fraser Health and those researchers. And that really brings us to, why do we want to celebrate? Why do we celebrate International Clinical Trials Day? What is that? And what is it with all the lemons? Why do we keep seeing lemons everywhere? It's really this day. Today's the 21st, so most people will celebrate it throughout the week, but actually the day is May 20th to recognize on May 20th in 1747, James Lind conducted one of the first controlled or first known controlled clinical trials aboard the HMS Salisbury. So what he was doing was looking to treat scurvy in sailors using some different remedies that he thought perhaps may be able to help them. So comparing and randomizing in a controlled fashion groups between lemons and orange and other remedies. And it turns out the group who received lemons and oranges recovered the most quickly, and this really helped usher in a new age of evidence-based medicine. So now every year on May 20th, we do celebrate the impact of clinical trials in improving care and helping us find better treatments. And as Kate had mentioned, there's many ways to celebrate this important day, but we really want to recognize and hear from our incredible clinical research professionals from across BC who are advancing clinical trials every day, working with participants, the patients, the researchers, and their dedication helps to improve care in this province and build research capacity. So we're thrilled to have them here today.
So let's meet them, Allison. Let's us stop talking and let's put the focus right on them. But maybe we'll do a little intro to each and maybe raise your hand or give a shout out, do a haiku, do a dance, whatever you need to do. So first of all, we have Celia. Celia is a clinical research nurse coordinator based at Northern Health in the Northern Center for Clinical Research in Prince George, with a background in acute care and cancer infectious disease research. I feel like a bit of a game show host right now. Anyway, we're going with it. Dusty is a regulatory clinical research coordinator at Interior Health with a non-traditional background and a strong commitment to collaborative growth. Putri is a seasoned clinical research professional and is currently the clinical research quality assurance specialist at Fraser Health, where she supports clinical research to adopt research quality management systems. And Lynn is a research nurse at Nanaimo Regional General Hospital, part of Island Health, who's played a key role in expanding research in a community hospital setting, especially during the COVID pandemic. Oh God, I didn't know we were going to say COVID. Okay. But so welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. And now we're just going to totally put the focus on you. No big deal.
So is everybody ready for some questions? Amazing. Okay, well, let's jump right in. And one thing I know that Kate and I were most curious about as we started to talk to you about what we would cover today is your journey into clinical trials. How did you find your way into working into clinical trials? Many clinical research professionals, including myself, did not know about the profession of clinical research. It wasn't something when we were younger, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a clinical research professional, or I want to work in clinical trials. Often not the case. And as we learned more about you, we see that is, your journeys are extremely interesting and diverse. So how did you first find your way to clinical trials? What was that journey? And was it what you expected? So maybe we can start, Celia. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Sure. So as Kate was saying in the intro, my background was acute care and then flowing into research. But as many others, I fell into it. I always had that passion for research and that need and that thirst for more knowledge and trying to figure stuff out. So early in my career as a new grad, as an LPN, I was part of a core group in our medicine board that we started journal clubs. And it was a great way to get together, sit, discuss the evidence that impacted our practice. We were thinking about different, the RNs could have the practice licensing and the different specialized practice designations, but we as LPNs at the time couldn't, so we were part of a group to go for that and to increase our knowledge and expertise in different areas. Because for me, on a personal level, I always had family members who didn't seem to fit when a treatment was offered. If they said, oh, this works for 95% of people, my one family member in particular was always in that 5% where it didn't work. So I always wanted to know if the treatments that were being offered our patients in the hospital or in the community, like my family members, were they the people? And I live in the north and my family's in the north. So we learn more about epigenetics and the influences of your environment on your experiences at a very small level. I always wanted to know, is what we're offering, were the northerners and were the population that we're giving it to included in that data? Is there a reason why maybe some people aren't reacting the same way? So then life circumstances happened. I found myself going to Vancouver, and I fell into a job I found on Craigslist for a research assistant. I actually didn't think it was real at first. I thought it was a spam, but it was real, and the rest is history.
That's fantastic, Celia. And I just the mention of Craigslist, yeah, really taking me back. But it sounds like, yes, you're not only like a natural curiosity, which I think is a bit of a theme with all of us, but this desire I'm hearing to improve care for your loved ones and also part of your nursing practice to bring that into your own nursing practice. So yeah, that's fantastic. Now, Putri, maybe I will ask this. I'm going to ask the same of all four of you. And Putri, your role is a little bit different in that as a working in quality and regulatory. And if you can tell us a little about your journey there.
Yeah. Um, well, I started working as a medical scribe for oncologists at UCSF in San Francisco, California, after completing my bachelor's degree. So I barely knew anything about clinical trials at that time, except that some of the patients were enrolled in a clinical trial as part of their treatment. And then one of the breast oncologists offered me to join her research team as a part-time data research coordinator. So that's how I got my first job in clinical research. And after meeting with the rest of the research team and learning more about clinical trials, I transitioned to be a full-time clinical research coordinator a few weeks later, managing phase 1B, 2, and 3 clinical trials. And that is how I found my way into clinical trials. Like I didn't have a lot of expectations, so I was amazed that there is a sector within healthcare field that does not require medical degree or nursing degree. And as I gained more experience, met other clinical research professionals across Canada and the US, and then obtaining the SOCRA certified clinical research professionals, I see that there is a growing sector, especially in BC. And as I learn more about the quality parts of being compliant with the regulatories and the GCP, that's how I fell in love in the quality section after being a coordinator for about 8 years or 7 years or so at that time. And yeah, so that's how I fell or found my ways into trials.
Fantastic. And you're working in a team at Fraser Health in Kate's department there as well, as I understand it. And Putri, you said you certified with SOCRA. I'm curious, I think you're aware we now offer another certification in quality. So I hope one day you might think about pursuing that. Maybe Dusty, Could you tell us a little bit about your role and your journey? How did you get into this role?
I don't have a science background at all. So um, I basically got interested in research from podcasts. Like a couple of my favorite podcasts are science podcasts, and they talk about clinical research a lot. So I just had like a recreational interest with no plans for doing anything professionally in research. Uh, then I saw a position for a research assistant at Interior Health, and they were in the process of like implementing their clinical trial management system. So they needed help with that, and I had a bit of computer experience, so I kind of worked my way in that way. But I had to get all of the clinical research training to do that role, to access files and everything. And I think less than a year, I was a clinical research coordinator there.
Fantastic. So the podcast piece just really fascinates me. I think it's just really cool. And the journal club you mentioned, Celia, we've got the podcast, those with a real natural interest in science and research. And then Craigslist, finding a job, or Dusty, you said you saw a posting for the role. So very interesting, different ways to get into these positions. Lynn, you're out on the island at Nanaimo Regional Hospital. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? As I understand, you're a nurse coordinator out there.
Thanks, Allison. As Kate introduced earlier, yes, I'm a clinical research nurse at Nanaimo here in the Nanaimo Hospital on the island. I do have to bring COVID back, yes. So my journey pretty much started that way as well. Maybe before that, my impression of research before was very limited, probably just related to what you learn in university and, in a broad spectrum, like cancer research or pharmaceutical research. But before that, very limited knowledge really of what research could really encompass. But the journey started, yes, COVID time. Our small little community hospital here had an ICU department, could take on patients that had COVID, but of course we didn't have any research department here. At that time, there was trial medications that were available, but required to have a research team to have accessibility to that. During that time, I was bedside nursing as a critical care nurse. And there was a small team of ICU doctors, infectious disease doctors, and some of the ICU nurses that joined together and advocated for these treatments for our patients. And I have to mention that Royal Jubilee Hospital, one of our other hospitals that is under the same health authority actually, was instrumental in trying to support us to start it up. They have had research going on there for over 20 years, well established, and helping our little smaller hospital start it was an amazing process for that team getting treatment for COVID patients. So during that time, I saw all these medications, trial medications being given. I was like, oh, it's very interesting to me. It actually stayed with me that, research could provide accessibility to treatment that might not otherwise be available to people. So that really stayed with me. And in the end, it was a colleague of mine that was part of the research team that said, hey, Lynn, I think you would really be suitable for this, see what research can do and what it actually means. And that's, I guess, how I fell into that role. And now it's 3 years going on to 4 years afterwards. Been a big journey about capacity building and building research here. So from the ground up. And so that's how I got into it.
Amazing. I know we talk a lot about research is care and care is research, but Lynn, it really sounds like your story embodies what that can look like and what that means. And building that research capacity, definitely a challenge, but so glad you and all the colleagues at Island Health are supporting that to happen. Kate, you'll remember the
I'm up.
COVID-19 research is care. I mean, it was really about trying to build some of that capacity.
I hear, yeah, I hear it. Like, I live and breathe research is care. I was in another panel recently, and I started talking about if I was to get a tattoo that was work related, it would be research is care. But anyway, enough about me. I'm eating the popcorn here. I'm fully engaged. I'm loving what I'm hearing. So I have another question for everybody. Um, so we've heard sort of a few different roles that people hold. And so I want to dig into that a little bit more. And so basically ask you if you could sort of just describe your current role and maybe the top 3 activities that you focus on, kind of on the day-to-day as you're working. And I'm gonna pick on everybody. So let's like reverse engineer. So Lynn, I'm gonna go to you this time.
Well, we're a smaller team here, like we consist right now, fortunately of 3 coordinators, so, and maybe 4 investigators. I think my role beyond just a coordinator is can change as multiple layers as we, as I said, build capacity here. So you take on a little bit of manager role, you do not only engage in enrolling patients or participants in studies, but you try to do a lot of engagement with the staff, with the hospital itself, trying to increase awareness and buy-ins for research in this area. A lot of my day consists of that, but the other part, the more enjoyable part, I suppose, is engagement with patients and their family. When you go up to talk to a patient about studies, you tend to spend a lot of time with them, learning about their history, why they're there, especially a lot of our studies are in the hospital and acute care settings. And so you wind up hearing a lot of their stories and families included while they're part of it. I guess it's called with the consent process. It can be a long process, but a very enjoyable one. Another part I would say is engagement with the staff, the medical staff. So trying to do education around that. One of the things is that not everyone's busy. All the staff is busy. It's an added layer to their work, but trying to increase our presence there and just engage. I think lots of the times it's large part of my day.
I'm gonna riff off that and give you a sub question, and I'm so sorry because if I throw you off here, but I'm very curious, and then I'll put the same pressure on Celia because you both are nurses, right? So I'm just curious about how you feel your nursing skills sort of contribute to the like being a research nurse.
Actually, that was something I was going to highlight too. I think it's helped significantly, maybe a little bit of advantage just to see a different perspective from studies. I still actually work at the bedside in ICU, and I find that part of that helps to build team, a sense of team with the staff. And so they're more invested, they're more engaged, they're more open to working in the studies and invested. As well, I see the participants in a different light too. I see from a medical perspective what it really means to them, and almost talking to patients, they feel like you understand what medical condition they're coming in with. So there's a little bit of connection that way too.
Awesome. So that didn't scare you off. You knew what you bring to the table. So thank you for that. And so Celia, I called you out, and I'm gonna go to you next.
Yeah, so my role is very similar to Lynn's. And from a research, if I get that tattoo, it's probably the same one. But in nursing, the tattoo would come right from first year. And if we have any nurses or nursing students here today, they will know this. The nursing process, ADPI, so that is nursing assessment, nursing diagnosis, do your planning, do your implementation and evaluation. That could be tattooed on my arm. And that is the same process I apply in my day-to-day research. And then there's ways to rank things of how critical is it to address this right now versus can this be deferred, can this be delegated? Those processes are so helpful to have that written in my soul.
Awesome. Gosh, like I love where this is going now. We've talked about podcasts, we've talked about tattoos, like we're just keeping it spicy here. Dusty, now I'm yeah, wondering what what's your experience on the day-to-day? What does it look like?
It's all kind of related to where I started with the clinical trial management system, or CTMS. I'm the CTMS admin for IH, so everything is related to that. And my primary role is regulatory. So I manage the investigator site file for all of our clinical trials through the electronic filing in the CTMS. And we track all of our finances in CTMS. So I just kind of provide support to our finance coordinator because it's a lot of work. And I try to help out with the quality management system we're implementing. So just giving like the regulatory feedback for our QMS.
Awesome. Thanks, Dusty. And you guys are just making it easy for me because you just said quality management system, and that leads me to Putri as our quality assurance specialist.
Yeah, as the clinical research quality assurance specialist at Fraser Health, my role is to ensure that all clinical research being done at the health authority is compliant to the regulations and the institutional policies. So I'm doing more of the behind the scenes stuff now instead of seeing patients, which I was doing as a clinical research coordinator. And my current priorities are similar to what Dusty's doing, to create and implement a quality management system and to administer the real-time clinical trial management system at Fraser Health, which means reviewing and creating a lot of processes by writing standard operating procedures, work instructions, and other documents that align with the good clinical practice, Health Canada regulations, and Fraser Health policies, and also have been guiding and assisting the newly established mobile clinical research unit as they develop their processes and infrastructure from study startup to study closeout. So I would check in with the research staff to see what works well, what needs to improve, and what support they need.
Well said. Yeah. And now I've decided that I'm just gonna stop calling you Putri and I'm gonna start calling you the process queen. Like that is now your new name. So that's cool. Allison, I think you have another gem of a question for them.
I do. But as everyone was talking, I didn't hear any mention really of a working in a lab or test tubes or anything like that. And I am curious. This is one of the things oftentimes those that don't work in clinical research or clinical trials, and they're like, "Oh, do you work in a lab? And what's that like? And what is your?" And when you say no, or you're trying to find a picture of what it looks like to be a clinical research professional, people are often surprised. Um, so what I'm definitely hearing is about the care, engaging with participants, patients, new treatments, but also a lot of processes and even the business skills that come into this role. And in different settings, Putri, you mentioned mobile settings, and we're hearing inpatient, mobile, different settings. Not necessarily a lab, although lab in terms of taking blood samples and doing the analysis on the different treatments. So really cool. But I would love to hear, what do you love the most about your job? What is it that gets you up coming into this job every day? Or is there something in your career journey so far that's really been a highlight moment for you where you've gone, yes, this is why I do this work? Let's start with Dusty.
Um, Anytime I can make the administrative side of things easier for the actual like patient facing coordinators on my team, like that's really satisfying for me because like they work so hard, they have very limited time, and I feel like sometimes dealing with the documentation and administrative stuff can just be like a burden for them. You know, like they need that time to spend with the patient. Uh, and we have all of this technology and software available to us, but no one has the time to find out what the features are, or if they know the feature, like actually how to use it. So I try to just notice those kind of things when I can, and I'll do like a quick 5-10 minute walkthrough of like, look, this is going to make this task so much easier for you if you just do this quick thing. And I feel like it saves a lot of time. Anytime I can do that or develop some other process to save them time, basically, that's like the rewarding thing for me.
So that, yeah, the process improvement, we're hearing that, improving processes and making things just work better for everyone involved. Dusty, and Celia, what is it you love most about your job, or a highlight for you so far?
Probably the coolest thing of my job is, of course, we're gathering the evidence to change practice. And we all know those administrative timelines can be massive. We always quote that 17 years or something from the time it goes from bench to a product. Anything I can do to help reduce that or help other folks, great. So like I have a little bit of the Dusty hat where I'm doing a lot of process and procedure. But like Lynn, we're just getting started. So we're still getting all of our setup and building that capacity actively right now. So just at the very, very beginning. So maybe we'll connect offline, Lynn, for tips and tricks. The amazing part for me is when we actually get to see something go to fruition and be able to have those conversations with my friends and people who are still staff here of like, hey, that we were part of that. Remember when you pull out your paper of your Tylenol bottle? There's a lot of people and time that went into that piece of paper before you chuck it in the bin. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about this happens. And then in those conversations, my colleagues feel empowered to start noticing things in their day-to-day and going, hey, this is awesome. And if I can notice things, how do I work with a research team to get stuff done from a bottom-up perspective? And I'm like, listen, talk to research, talk to the quality, talk to evaluation teams. Absolutely. We can make all kinds of little changes.
Thanks, Celia. Yeah. So again, changing, improvements, making a difference. Thank you. Putri, what do you love most about your job?
What I love the most about working in clinical trials is that we are able to provide additional treatment options to patients besides the standard of care. Like while working as a clinical research coordinator in San Francisco, for one of the studies I coordinated, the study participants were able to receive oral chemotherapy. So instead of them spending hours getting IV chemotherapy at the hospital, they can spend more time, for themselves, hanging out, doing whatever they want. And fortunately, the cancer responded well to the study drug, thus they were able to stay on the study drug for more than a year, which was a big deal for patients with stage 4 cancer. I think, I see that there's a lot of potential of that happening in BC. That's why I love what I do the most, to ensure that we have the right infrastructure that is compliant to the regulatories, so we can have these opportunities available to the patients across, not just in the cities, but in the rural areas as well, eventually.
Yeah. Thanks, Putri. And Lynn, it sounds like it's fairly, perhaps haven't been doing the clinical research as long as perhaps some of our colleagues, but what is it you love about this work?
I think that, all three have mentioned what I was going to mention, actually touched base on all of it, but it is about, in the end, the availability of medications. When you hear a patient talk about how much it's improved or what they've been going through until they got this treatment, it's really rewarding to hear how it's been helping them, or that they find they've gotten something because of a trial medication. Or in the acute care setting, more so, the improving care and actually reevaluating if, you know, this current practice is actually effective or not. We just let maybe treatments linger a long time. And as Cecilia said, that, you know, it takes so long to change a practice. It's so it's nice and rewarding. We were in part of a trial that was looking at an intervention in ICU, and this was in the makings of 30 years. Over time, the trial itself was shorter, but this question was that they proposed was the 30 years in the making. So to change it, it's very nice to see that we could do that with clinical trials. That's the rewarding thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kate, what do you think? We have maybe 4 minutes if we want to go to one last like rapid fire question.
Yeah,
or do
I
we-
want to, because
What do you-
I'm deep into this right now. So, but being mindful of that, you lovely creatures. So time is ticking. But one last question for you. What advice would you give someone who is thinking about becoming a clinical research professional or wanted to grow in this field? Putri, I'll start with you.
You need to stay open-minded as you find your pathway in the clinical research career. For example, like having some financial knowledge can be very useful as because you know we need to manage funds to related to the research program and the clinical trials in general. And also like something that I didn't really think about is the educational background can be useful as well, because we need to continue training current and future clinical research professionals, because things are changing, regulations are changing. So, you know, having an educational background, it can be useful for, you know, to keep people engaged in the field.
Thanks, Putri. Celia.
If I had to say something to anyone, it would be research is relationships. So however you're building those relationships, if you're just starting to get into the career, challenge yourself to network, challenge yourself to meet others, reach out, email those of us who are into it. I'm totally into it. Reach out to me. I will have that conversation with you, because it's an awesome field and it can be intimidating. So I thought research was just like the movies with all these fancy things and everybody with PhDs. And it's not. It's very welcoming. It's welcoming to a variety of backgrounds. So build those relationships.
Awesome. I love that. Lynn, what say you?
I feel like everyone's saying what I want to say. So
Ditto then? You say ditto?
and I do agree that it's to be open-minded about this. Nobody ever thinks, like Allison had mentioned, nobody ever thinks research when they graduate or when they're nursing or anything. Oh, I'm just going to be research. They don't even understand probably what it means to be in research. It's just so vague. But there's I think, a very welcoming community in research. I've gone to a lot of conferences and with networks, and they're just so bright, and what they bring to it, it's amazing. So I would say, yeah, be really open. I think I had a good discussion with someone before, and a nursing student, and she's like, that's not probably what I would go into or consider, but she had no idea. You were just mainstream to, you know, medical surgery or like the other one's option. But that's what I would encourage. There's so much potential in research to go and grow. That's what I would say.
Love it. And Dusty, last but certainly not least.
Yeah, basically, I agree with what everyone else said. Like, there's a lot of different sorts of opportunities in research, and the people are amazing. Like, I love what I do. I feel like most of the people I work with feel the same way. So it's definitely something to look into.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now I'm envisioning like, movies and then like there's the credits that happen and people don't stay and like look at those unless it's a Marvel movie or whatever. And then there's the after scene. But like I'm just thinking it takes so many and different kinds and people to contribute to the clinical trial ecosystem. And so it's been yeah, it's just been fascinating to hear your stories. And I'm so appreciative. Allison, it goes till 12:45, right? So are we doing wrap up?
Yeah, I think we're going to do wrap up, but I love what you were saying there because there's over 1,200 clinical trials in BC right now. Like over 700 actively enrolling across all parts of BC. We have our colleagues here from more of the regional areas, but in Vancouver, we've got PHSA, Vancouver Coastal, Providence Healthcare, and there's jobs being posted all the time. And as you can see today, positions in all parts of BC. So really encourage anybody that is thinking about this pathway. It's definitely, there is a need for folks like you see on the call.
Yeah, 100%. So I want to just deepest and like with gratitude to Celia, Lynn, Dusty, and Putri for spending some time with us today and sharing sort of your stories and insights and passion for what you do. I've people that know me, I joke if I was to do this all again, I would be an accountant because I'm actually a bit of an introvert, but you've kind of convinced me I think I would be a clinical research professional. So thank you for spending the time with us today. Yeah, just and showcasing the really important work that you do to make that clinical trials magic happen. Allison?
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to our audience for joining us today to celebrate International Clinical Trials Day. And we do hope you enjoyed this conversation and as much as Kate and I did. So thanks for joining. But before we sign off, I'd like to bring forward Rishi Sani, who some of you know is our Education and Events Coordinator at Clinical Trials BC. And Rishi is going to tell you a little bit about next steps and any upcoming events.
Thanks, Allison. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. I know we're almost done here, so I'll just go through this quickly. You're going to get an email from me just post-event, containing a link to an evaluation survey. The survey only takes about 2 minutes to complete. So we do ask if you can give us your feedback. It is valuable to us in informing our event content that we do. And as for event content, we do have a couple future events coming up here. One for Ask Us Equipment and Calibration, that's on June 17th. That's just going to be with Karen McGilvery as our guest speaker with our host, Gene Smart. They'll be having a fire style side chat, just going over equipment management and compliance. And if you're interested in leveling up your career as a research professional, as some of us, our esteemed panelists are here, we are having an information session on June 26th. On the QR code there on the right is how you register. You can learn about our clinical research professional certification program, the exam fee reimbursement that comes with it, and just our community of practice that is collaborative and welcoming. So I'll have that up there for 5 more seconds in case anyone has their phones out. If you don't worry, I will include all the links in the post-event email. And we always ask you to connect with us on social media or subscribe to our newsletter, which is the QR code on the bottom right there. That's a great way to find out about any of our upcoming events or any offerings that we're putting out for the public. And before we sign off, I'll hand it back to you, Kate, because I know there's something you want to touch upon as well.
Yeah, so just again, 5 days in May is a living and breathing thing, and it's continuing for the next 9 days, 10 days. So please continue to check that out. And then just a plug, because Fraser Health, where I work, and beyond 5 days in May, we do hold a series of researcher cafes, and we're planning another one in the fall. So stay tuned for that. Now I'm thinking that instead of getting the PIs to present, we're going to get our clinical research professionals to present. No big deal. So you're welcome, guys, in advance when I come knocking. But anyway, thank you so much for being a part of this session today. Rishi, thank you to you as well for doing an awesome job, herding us cats and making this a lovely experience. And Allison, thank you for agreeing and to partner and do this with me. It's so important to celebrate everybody that's a part of this research game. And so I really appreciated being a part of this session.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. Thanks everyone for joining in, especially to our panelists for sharing those amazing stories and journeys with us today.